Without further ado, let me introduce my fellow speakers. Umang Varma leads the customer engineering team at Google Malaysia. Umang's an experienced leader with more than 20 years of experience in technology consulting. Umang has specialized in guiding large global enterprises through global digital transformation, mastering the use of AI, blockchain, IoT, analytics, and big data. Beyond his corporate leadership, Umang is also a recognized voice in the global tech community. Umang is here today to help us understand not just what the technologies can do, but how they are being successfully engineered and adopted by the world's largest companies. And we've got Rob, Global Head of Sales and BD for AI Data Center Networking at Juniper Networks. Rob leads a specialist group that's laser focused on one thing, enhancing the experience and the economics of data center operators running high-intensity AI, machine learning, and high-performance computing. Rob has more than 25 years experience working in and around data centers, covering every layer from networks to storage to compute security and automation. And finally, we have got Maxx Wong, Head of Technical Solutions at YTL Data Center. Maxx flew in just for this from Singapore. Maxx is a distinguished data center expert and infrastructure strategist who oversees the planning and delivery of mission-critical facilities across the entire APAC region. Maxx has also recently completed one of Malaysia's largest projects, the YTL Kulai Green Data Center Park, and has earned a prestigious title of the best project in Southeast Asia in 2024. Congrats, Maxx. Formalities aside, this is where it gets interesting. I've got a series of questions over here. We're going to break the conversation into 3 parts. First part, let's talk about the AI-driven infrastructure. I've got a few questions for my panel speakers. We'll then talk about AI, ethics, compliance, and implications. And finally, we're going to have a very difficult question for our panel speakers, predictions and trends. So without further ado, maybe Rob, if you don't mind, let's get the ball rolling. We hear a lot about AI-optimized infrastructure. What is it really?
What is it? That's a very good question. And I should say to your point that, yes, at university I studied philosophy and focusing on artificial intelligence and formal logic. And all this stuff, we were doing it on blackboards with chalk at the time. And in that 30 years, the fact we now actually have the compute power to see it actually come real is fantastic. But the important thing is a lot of the algorithms that are powering this amazing technology, they've been around, some of them, for hundreds of years. And when we say about AI-optimized infrastructure, I've been in data centers a while, but in the last 2 or 3 years, I have never seen anything like this. So when we say AI-optimized, it's a bit of a buzzword, but we realize this is something that is fundamentally different to what we've done for the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. I think we've been building data centers really for about 50 years. Just a simple fact, obviously, maybe from my accent, you can tell I'm based in the UK. We've been building data centers there for about 50 years. Total current data center capacity in the UK is about 1.7 gigawatts. That's across all the banks, the cloud providers, 1.7 gigawatts. What's the last data center you built? About half of that? Yeah? We hear about OpenAI. OpenAI, in the next 8 years, have said they want to build 250 gigawatts of data center capacity. Sometimes you hear the terms, but you don't quite appreciate just what that means. A gigawatt data center is bigger than anything that really exists today. And every day on the news, you read the news, it's another investment, another gigawatt, another 5 gigawatts, another 10 gigawatts. So, what they're building at Google, what they're building around, and 1 gigawatt of data center, we're talking about, give or take, $50 billion of investment in land, infrastructure, all the stuff that goes into it. So this really, really does need a fresh approach. So AI optimized, I'll give 2 answers. First of all, by AI optimized, we have to make sure that that infrastructure is optimized for AI, because the only reason people invest $50 billion at a time is that they expect $100 billion back. So if you do not optimize that infrastructure, those amazing $50,000 GPUs are going to be running at 25% utilization, and it's not going to work. It's not going to deliver, either economically or the promise of the technology will not be delivered. And we have to optimize at every layer of the stack. There's so many people next door showing you how you build data centers in terms of power, cooling, infrastructure, all important. But then everything that goes in, it's not just the GPU. Obviously, working for a networking company, I can talk for hours about how we optimize the network to deliver that for the GPU, but it's the storage, the data, the security, the skills around it, everything top to bottom has to have a fresh approach and a different approach, otherwise it's not going to work. But then the second point is we can actually now use AI to optimize that infrastructure. And it's a fantastic use case. There's lots of promise for AI, and I think we're all looking for what are those real use cases that deliver value. So for those of you who know Juniper, We've actually been using AI to optimize networks now for about 8 years. So we started off using it to optimize our wireless. We're not doing this building, by the way, otherwise the Wi-Fi would be a bit better. I can see it's Aruba. Yeah, so using AI to optimize network is a proven use case, and we're now expanding that into how do we optimize data center networks and into the full stack. So I say that is important. But what I would say is that when you're looking at building infrastructure, think about we're in an industry that's changing so quickly. You were asking for predictions in a few years. I don't know what's going to happen in 6 months. There'll be some new amazing processors that will come out, some new techniques, algorithms. Software is being optimized every single day, let alone NVIDIA, which are now bringing out new hardware every 12 months, not 5 years like we're used to in the industry. So it's important that that infrastructure has to be flexible, it has to be dynamic, it has to be open. We don't know which way things are going to change, which way things are going to scale. So it needs to be manageable, it needs to be visible, and it needs to be flexible. And I say, if I can say one more thing, AI infrastructure just isn't about mega data centers for Google or Meta or whoever's building these things. It's important to enterprises as well, because they're realizing they sometimes have to own their own AI. They have to build it into existing data centers. They're not going to be a gigawatt data center, but we have to make sure that we bring that knowledge and expertise to the enterprise, to public sector organizations, not just the mega scale and the hyperscale cloud as well. So I think it really is transforming everything.
Thank you, Rob. If there's any takeaway, it really is the scale and size, right? From 1 gigawatt to what we are discussing, 250 gigawatt. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Sometimes these numbers doesn't mean much to me until they put it in the right context, right? And things are fluid, things will change. No one knows what's going to happen. But what's important is have a fluid, dynamic infrastructure that can adapt to all the changes. So thank you, Rob. It feels like AI is so resource intensive, hence the need of supersized data centers. And on that note, maybe a question for Umang. Does the current cloud economic model, which is pay-per-use, actually work for the massive sustained compute power these models demand? Or are we really headed back to a reserve capacity model?
Thank you. Thanks for the question. See, in my mind, it depends on what are you going to run on that infrastructure. And therefore, you have the opportunity to pick the right model, the right economic model that works for you. So in most practical cases, it will be a combination, right? So for example, if you have spiky workloads, so you're doing some inferencing, you're doing some experimentation on AI. So for that, you don't need a reserve instance. You can do a pay-per-use. But then if you're running training workloads, which are a little bit more resource intensive, then for that, you have reserve instances, right? And then you have multiples in between. You have spot instances, etc. For public sector, there are other consumption models. So I think it's typically a bouquet of consumption models that customers look for, and that's how they can optimize their cost.
So essentially, there's no one-size-fits-all, right? It depending on your usage model and whatnot. So I guess the key takeaway for organizations is we have to have a contract, again, that's a little bit more flexible and cater for the different types of needs, whether it's inference or whether it's a spiky workload. Thank you, Umang. We're turning on to Maxx, right? Maxx coming from YTL, someone perhaps from the industry. Can you share with us how your company uses AI to manage IT operations? Can AI itself be the solution to this complexity, making operations a little bit more efficient, smarter, to offset the compute cost? 250 gigawatt, I'm sure it's going to be cost you an arm and a leg and 2 kidneys, right?
Yeah, probably I can share a bit the AI role in our YTL data center as well. But actually we have been using AI not only now. Previously, if you heard of the CFD, we will simulate the airflow for our data hall, for the A-cool data hall.
CFD is computational fluid dynamics.
Yes, correct.
I like to make myself sound smart, but I don't quite understand what it is.
Yeah, so actually since very long time ago, we already have the AI. Of course, it's not a Gen AI, so we will do a software simulation from a design stage. Actually, AI is in every part of our data center, from design until to operation. From the design stage, we use AI-powered software engineering, like the CFD I say. Of course, in the electrical, we do use ETAP as well. So some of it actually is very smart. You can simulate, if let's say the power failure, what is going to happen in the system. Then some of the software will help us to calculate the reliability and availability of a system as well. So that's in the design part as well. If you heard of now the adopted beam modeling, so we'll show the 3D model of the entire DC, including the rack, the trunking, the services like power or cooling, transformer or generator. It's all actually is already happening since like few years ago. So in the construction stage, actually we also have the AI power software. So actually in our YTL construction, we also start to use a CX planner. So we use that software to help us manage the commissioning activity. Because actually in data center, we have a very robust and rigorous commissioning process. They split into 6 phases. Start from the factory acceptance test, the on-site QA/QC installation check as well, and then the power startup or water startup test, until to the functional performance test, and finally the integrated system test as well. We always call it the IST. So it's like we test every piece of the equipment in a different location, like in factory, make sure it's meet all the spec, and then on site as well, and then we test it with an entire system. It will be able to support the IT load that can meet the SLA that we already signed off with the customer, like Google. So yeah. Other than that, that's during the construction stage. Of course, we have the AI. We also start to use AI to do meeting note. This is actually one of the feature that we already have in Microsoft Teams. So of course, there's many other software as well. So that's why there's all this actually is powered by AI, or they call it assisted by the AI as well. So in terms of operation, of course, we have the operation system. So we have the chiller plant control system. So that one is a software that control and optimize the cooling infrastructure to suit the IT load. So it help us to achieve a lower POE as well. Of course, there are some other new software to do a predictive analysis on the equipment as well. So that one we're also still exploring. We haven't really adopted that software yet. So that's why you can see actually AI is really being in our data center industry, like from design all the way to the operation. We kind of ready at the forefront of the technology as well.
Thank you. So essentially AI being the reason that we needed these giant data centers, right? Again, the number stuck with me, 250 gigawatt. And AI itself could also be one of the solutions, like what you just rightfully mentioned, throughout the entire life cycle of data center to kind of optimize the energy usage and make it a little bit more efficient. We're going to switch gear a little bit. And we're going to switch gear a little bit about ethics, compliance, and regulatory landscape. Can't run away from that. You've probably heard about EU, AI Act, US, every country, and it's fairly fragmented within our region, Southeast Asia as well. Right? And I guess my question here for Maxx really is about enterprise critical Gen AI, about the regulatory hit that's coming on as well. And my question is this: where does the responsibility lie? Is it with the model developer, the coders, right? Or is it the cloud provider? Or is it the enterprise customers? And what are the non-negotiables for ethical deployment, if you have any examples to share?
Probably I can share, from a very personal point of view, because of course we are doing the infrastructure more than the software. But to me, it's like, because I also is user of the ChatGPT, right? So actually I also, when I started to use, actually I tell my colleague is that, hey, every day I train the model. If one day the company take away the model, I become like jobless. So this actually raises a question that who own the model? ChatGPT trained the model, the basic one, but they'll start to learn me, and try to give the answer to generate a lot of article, because I actually use that for the LinkedIn as well. So who eventually will own the model? Of course, if you ask me, I will say I will own the model because I pay ChatGPT every month. So they do the basic one, but I value add and make the tools to generate the economy value that serve me. So to me, it's like the end user, not even the enterprise or the model developer or the coder will own the model. So the end user like me should own the model, because we give the data, we input the data, and we train the model that to suit our style and to give the answer and generate the article that suit us. Yeah, that's my personal view.
So your personal point of view is really the end user, whoever that uses the model and train the model, ultimately will own. And I suppose when I say own, it also means responsible, accountable for the model as well. Umang, you want to add something?
If I can add that to your question, right? If you look at enterprise deployment, it's a shared responsibility model. So you'll have the model provider, right? Any model that you take, it's his responsibility to train the model fairly, be open about the model itself. What are the safety filters that have been built into the model? What are the limitations of the model? Be clear about that. Second will be the infrastructure provider, where the model will be hosted. It's his responsibility to make sure it's reliable, robust, safe infrastructure, etc. Third will be the end customer itself, who will build applications on top of this model. And The responsibility of the application builder, the end customer, is to make sure they comply with the regulatory compliance in their territory, right? Have they built a safe application? Does it comply with their own organizational policies? So it's a shared responsibility model.
By the different levels, right? You cover the end user who build applications, the infrastructure provider, and the model developer. Each has its own sets of purview and accountability. On that note, Umang, maybe I'll turn that to you, right? Then what do you see as the single biggest infrastructure challenge a regulation creates? I mean, there's a lot of talk about data residency. Is it energy consumption? Is it environmental concerns? Or is it something else entirely?
See, in my mind, what I'm seeing across regions and geographies is more than anything else, it is transparency and auditability. So, for example, if I deploy a model as a bank in Malaysia, then I have to comply with multiple regulations. That's one. Second, the model has to give me a consistent response. So, for example, if you apply for a loan and the loan is rejected for you, then I need to know why. Then it should be consistent behavior.
Yeah.
Then I need to have the auditable logs for this available for many, many years. So building this kind of capability is actually a bit complex.
Yeah.
Takes a bit of effort, and I think that's one of the biggest challenges that companies are looking to solve.
Yeah.
So building for auditability in AI systems, building for transparency and consistency, I think one of the most important aspects.
Thank you, Umang. And I've read about this, how until today, no one really knows how Gen AI works, right? I mean, it's like a black box. So transparency, auditability, explainability, and many other litis out there, I think it's really important, and this is a developing field. So thank you so much, Umang. Rob, is there a scenario whereby this high bar of responsible AI becomes a competitive bottleneck, right? So there's always a balance between innovation versus putting all the guardrails. What's your view on that?
What's my view? My view is that this is a really tough question.
Special from our guest from England.
Especially as an individual, I mean, certainly sat here as a representative of a technology company. That's really tough because obviously we work within very strict frameworks. We are an honorable, ethical company that's ingrained into what we do. And legally, we all as individuals, employees, as companies, we sign off on this stuff. We take it, as all these organizations do, we take it incredibly, incredibly seriously. Yeah, so what do you do if a rogue actor, be it in a state or an individual, pops up and starts doing something? I'd even argue it's not been about losing competitive advantage. This is more of a moral question. This is, what do you do if somebody starts using the technology that you are partly responsible for creating and enabling, they start doing bad things with it? And that, as you say, it's very difficult because we do have fragmented regulation. So I think, first of all, it is incumbent upon us, sort of big tech firms, to push for better globally enforced regulation. I'm sure my chief compliance officer is screaming at me now for saying that. And it's not to level the playing field. It's a bigger question than that. It's to make sure that this technology actually delivers value for everybody in the world and is a force for good. Yeah? I look at it slightly differently in an individual point of view, because I think it is incumbent on us all as individuals to do the right thing. We understand the technology. So we understand a bit how ChatGPT works. And there is a misconception about what this technology can do and can't do. ChatGPT essentially just churns out tokens. That's what it does. Based on what I've churned out so far and the prompt I was given, what is the next token I'm going to generate? But it's advancing so quickly, and we can see impersonation problems, we can see misrepresentation problems, we can see a whole host of things, yeah? So for those of us who understand the technology, we must be transparent, to come to your point. We must educate, and that is really important. We need to educate not just the young generation, but everybody, because this is new for everybody, to spot these things, to learn, to be cautious, to question what we're seeing. I mean, it could talk for hours on this point, but yeah, I think we just have to be really aware, cognizant, and we need to shout up when we see things that don't look right, both as companies, as individuals.
Thank you, Rob. So it's really not just for competitive difference. It's a much bigger conversation, right? And when you were saying that, what comes to mind was actually Spider-Man. Great powers comes with great responsibility, right? I think that resonates very well with me. Umang, one more question for you. We all know in Malaysia, we are largely 95% SMEs, right? It's a very SME, very fragmented industry. And I guess my question here really is now with Gen AI and all the associated infrastructure, private DC, hyperscalers, and all these mumbo-jumbos, evolving technologies, it opens a lot of opportunity. But how do you see that this technology will evolve to truly serve the SME market here in Malaysia?
I'm seeing some very, very interesting examples of how SMEs are benefiting from this technology. I'll share one or two real examples of work that is being done in Malaysia. So for example, as an SME, you want a loan. Okay, I run a small SME, small shop somewhere in PJ, and I need a loan. Today, to get a loan, I have to go to a bank, I have to offer collateral. I'm a small SME, I don't have enough collateral. If I'm a startup, I don't have enough of a credit history. So for me, I am underbanked. And if you look at the underbanked population in Malaysia, it's significant. Are there enough solutions available for them from financing? Maybe not. Using AI, I'm seeing solutions being deployed where I could potentially take a photograph of your stock. I just open Gemini on my phone. I could take a stock photograph of your inventory and do a quick credit calculation in real time because it's connected to Google search. I can see if you've got a packet of Maggi noodles, you've got 100 packets in your inventory, as evidenced in the photograph. How much does that cost? So I can do a very quick and dirty back of the envelope inventory calculation for you. So I know what is the stock that you have. I can do a search and say, okay, in this location in PJ, you've got 2 other competitors. What is the kind of footfall that you get in this area? Is that the right audience for you? What is your rating on Google? Are you a 4.2? Are you a 1.8? What does that mean for your footfall? What does that mean for your customer satisfaction? So using all of this data, we call it proxy data, collected through AI, I can give you a much better loan term. So as an SME, you directly benefit. Second example, I've got larger customers of mine building solutions for SMEs. Now an SME, I run the same small shop. I don't know how to do marketing. I know how to sell goods. I know how to sell groceries. I don't know how to market. I have customers who are offering them very simple AI-based marketing solutions. So if I want to run a small campaign on Google or I want to run a small campaign on YouTube, can I give you in a drag and drop manner the ability to create small videos, small ads for yourself at very cost-effective rates? You don't need to know any technology for it, but I give it to you in a simple way to do. So those are real examples of how AI is being used by SMEs in this country to be more successful.
Opens up so much opportunities. We've got last 45 seconds. I want to be on time. So they'll be invite me back here next year. One sentence of prediction, let's say by 2030. Each panelist give me a one sentence prediction of what's going to happen in 2030.
I said before, I don't know, and that is a genuine answer. But what I do know is it will be different. And it will be different. I'm not sure how. New technologies, new approaches, and what's important is that we have open infrastructure that is able to accommodate and adapt and change.
I also don't know what happened in 2030, to be frank. My crystal ball told me it's only up to like 2027. So probably 2 years later, I would say AI will be still here. And then the liquid cooling and the high density power infrastructure will be still here. So we have to embrace it.
Again, my crystal ball doesn't tell me anything, but I'll tell you the 2 things that I'm hoping will happen. One, AI agents, big believer in those. In my belief, AI agents will be the next Play Store. So rather than buying applications, mobile apps, you will buy or subscribe or lease AI agents to automate some part of your work. That's where I see the industry headed. Second, I'm hoping for more clean tech, much lesser power consuming AI models. And I see a lot of that happening in the R&D that a lot of AI developers do. So yeah, those are my 2 predictions.
Thank you so much. So essentially, it's exciting times. We don't quite know what's going to happen, but there's a lot of opportunities for us. And we've got to embrace this technology responsibly, to Rob's point. So thank you very much. We have got Maxx, Rob, and Umang. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.